He didn't take my money in one night. He took it with promises, with morning hugs, and with plans painted in the softest voice I'd ever heard. I met Ryan on a Sunday afternoon when the Austin air felt cooler than usual. It was April, and the bluebonnets were in full bloom along the highways. I still remember that day clearly. I was waiting for a friend who was, as always, running late. I was sitting in a small cafe on South Congress, mindlessly scrolling through my phone. Ryan was at the table next to mine. He asked to borrow my phone charger, and that's how it started. Nothing dramatic. Actually, painfully ordinary. But some ordinary things cut deep like thorns, and I didn't see it coming. We talked like we'd known each other forever. He wasn't charming in a movie star kind of way, but he had that pull, like a man who knows exactly what he wants. Or at least, someone who knew how to act like he did. Ryan worked in fintech. He had his own startup and was raising his first round of funding. Terms I didn't really care about until he spoke about them with so much passion that it made me feel like I was being swept into something bigger. He said I had a smile that made people feel at ease. I didn't take it as a pickup line. I just thought, maybe it had been a long time since anyone had said something kind to me. I was 28, newly moved to Austin. My job was decent. I did marketing for an organic cosmetics retail brand. The salary was enough to live on. After 3 years of single life in New York, I felt like someone walking away from a battlefield, craving peace, something real. No more glitz, no more chaos. Ryan came into my life right around the time I was beginning to believe I might be ready to open up again. Evening walks around Lady Bird Lake, late night talks that drifted into silence, hugs that didn't say much but made me feel safe. I didn't trust Ryan just because he knew how to talk. I trusted him because I wanted to believe. He told me about his dream of building a real estate investment platform for young people. Transparent, secure, accessible. He said, if someone like you could be the voice of this brand, it wouldn't just succeed, it would have soul. It sounded a little like something out of a romance novel, but at that moment, my heart was racing. I didn't think I was falling for a liar. I thought I'd found someone brave enough to dream, and bold enough to invite me into that dream. We weren't together long, less than 3 months, but it felt like we lived a whole chapter. Some weekends, he took me to visit his hometown, where there was a small wooden cabin on a hill. He said, if things go well, I want to buy land like this, build a house together, plant trees, raise a dog. I laughed and teased. You just described a Valentine's season Netflix special. But then I started to imagine for real. And once a woman starts picturing the future, she often forgets to check the present. I didn't invest right away. In fact, I said no to Ryan 3 times before I finally said yes. The first time was on a Friday night while we were cooking dinner together. I was chopping onions, and he was next to me, searing salmon and passionately going on about a real estate investment platform for the new generation. He said it would revolutionize how young people manage their money, no more depending on greedy banks or risky markets. He sketched diagrams on a napkin. Show me numbers. We just need $50,000 to complete phase 1. I already have $20K from a former partner. If you come in with $30K, we can take this to the next level. I remember laughing, half joking. Are you fundraising for your girlfriend now? Ryan laughed too. I call it trust. The second time was after we went to a TED Talk on the UT campus. On the way back, Ryan turned to me and said, do you realize you're the kind of person this world needs? Someone who believes, who builds, who walks alongside. I didn't reply, but I remember how tightly he held my hand. I texted my best friend, Kara, who lives in Seattle. Kara's a practical one. Financially smart, emotionally sharp, hard to fool. I told her everything. She replied with just one sentence. Are you sure? You can always earn money again, but once you lose trust in yourself, it's harder to get that back. That line haunted me for days. But Ryan didn't push. He didn't beg or pressure me. In fact, he pulled back, kept working, didn't mention the project again. And that made me start to believe maybe he didn't need my money. Maybe he just wanted me in it with him. I wired the money on a Monday morning. Sitting at my usual cafe, I open my banking app and stare at the account number Ryan had sent via email. No contract, no paperwork, no refund clause, just one promise. Everything I'm building is for us. I hit send, feeling scared and strangely relieved, like I just jumped off a cliff, not knowing if the fall would end in water or rocks, but hoping someone was waiting at the bottom with arms outstretched. In the days that followed, I started working with Ryan on the platform. He sent me a rough wireframe. I helped rewrite the copy, shape the brand voice, even picked out the color scheme. We had long Zoom calls, met in cafes, swapped ideas. He showed me emails from tech partners, said they were working with a dev team in Denver. Everything looked real. And I felt like I was part of something bigger than myself. But then, slowly, things began to change. Replies took longer. Plans got pushed back at the last minute. I'm in meetings with the back-end team. Running late today. Let's catch up tomorrow. He stopped showing up for Sunday morning coffee. The glow in his eyes when talking numbers, gone. What replaced it was silence. Colder, longer. I asked, how's the project going? He said, we're entering a sensitive phase. I need to stay focused. I didn't know what sensitive meant, but I nodded. I still believed. The change didn't happen overnight. It started with the smallest things, like how Ryan began replying to texts with just one word instead of those long sentences filled with emojis like before, or how he stopped sharing little parts of his day, like dropping his laptop or arguing with the sandwich guy on the corner. I kept reassuring myself. Maybe he's just stressed about the project. Maybe men pull back sometimes when they're fighting for something big. But deep inside, I started to feel scraped raw, like a small stone dropped into still water. Tiny ripples, invisible to anyone but me. In the third week after I sent the money, Ryan disappeared for 3 days. I texted, I miss you. No response, not even read. I called, disconnected. I waited another day before finally sending an email to the work address he used to communicate with me. A few hours later, I got a cold, one-line reply. Don't worry, I'm handling a few things. We'll call later. No apology, no explanation. I read that line over and over like someone trying to find meaning in a gaze that already turned away. That night, I went to Ryan's apartment. The lights were off. The door was locked. Mailbox empty. I knocked. A neighbor stepped out from the apartment next door, gave me a puzzled look, and asked, You looking for Ryan? I think he moved out last week. I froze. I couldn't breathe. It felt like someone had kicked me hard in the stomach and walked away. I walked home like a ghost. Rain started pouring as I crossed the bridge where we used the bike on Sunday mornings. I let it soak my face. There was only one thought looping in my head. Was I really scammed? I opened my banking app and saw the transfer $30,000 to a personal account under the name RC West. No company, no startup, no contract. I stayed up all night, scrolling through every old message, every shared Google Drive file, everything that once looked real. The brand strategy one wrote now felt like I had done marketing for a ghost. The next morning, I went to the bank. The teller told me the transaction couldn't be reversed because it was a voluntary transfer. I went to a law office. They said I could sue. But without a contract, without a formal investment agreement, the case had almost no legal standing. I called Kara. She heard my voice for barely 3 sentences before blurting out, "Oh my God, you didn't sign anything?" I broke down. For the first time, I cried not out of anger, but from pain. Not because I lost money, but because I lost a piece of myself. The part that still believed love didn't need terms and conditions. The part that believed if you were kind, kindness would find its way back to you. That night, I curled up in bed, not eating, not sleeping. And that's when it hit me. Ryan didn't just lie with his words. He lied by building an entire world, inviting me into it as a co-star, and then deleting the whole scene the moment I was no longer profitable to him. I still have one photo, one I took of him on our first walk around the lake. He was smiling, holding a water bottle, sunlight catching in his hair. I used to think it was the most genuine smile I'd ever seen. Now when I look at it, I see something else. The smile of someone who already knew he was going to win because the other person hadn't realized they were even playing a game. I sat in my apartment for nearly a week after I realized Ryan had disappeared. It wasn't that I didn't know what to do. It was that I didn't have the strength to begin doing anything at all. I call it standing in the eye of the storm. No more wind, no more noise, just an eerie, deafening stillness. What hurt the most wasn't losing the money. It was how deeply I had trusted someone and how quietly that trust was betrayed. No fights, no goodbye, no reason to hate him. Just 100 reasons to hate myself. I didn't tell many people, not because I was ashamed, but because I knew they wouldn't really understand. Some would say, "Why would you transfer money without a contract?" Or worse, "You probably rushed into it too fast." I didn't need that. What I needed was space, to learn how to trust myself again. Kara, my best friend from Seattle, flew down to Austin as soon as she found out. She didn't ask many questions. She just showed up with a cheap bottle of wine and the kind of hug that says, "I'm here, no matter what." We sat on my kitchen floor, leaning against the old fridge, eating cold pizza, and listening to the same songs we used to blast in college. At one point, Kara looked at me, her voice low like a whisper. "You're a kind person, but sometimes kind people think everyone else is like them. They're not." I laughed, but my eyes were red. Later, I started seeing a therapist. In our first session, I talked fast, too much, like I was afraid that if I stopped, everything would collapse. I told her about Ryan, about the plans, the dream, the $30,000 I once thought I was investing in our future. She didn't interrupt. She just listened. And when I finally stopped, she asked me one question. If your best friend told you this exact same story, would you think she was stupid? I froze. That question, so simple, cut straight through me. No. So then why couldn't I say that to myself? I started writing, line by line, feeling by feeling, not to defend myself, not to accuse him, just to remember that I had once loved, once fallen, once been swallowed by the dark, and still I could find my way back to the light. I returned to work, but I didn't rush into the grind. I picked smaller projects, gentler ones that felt like the kind of kindness I now wanted from life. I learned to say no to things that made me feel small, and yes to things that offered me nothing but peace. One day, while cleaning out my old inbox, I found a photo I took of Ryan during our first walk around the lake. My first instinct was to delete it, but I paused. Because next to Ryan in that photo was me, with a smile so genuine it glowed. I kept the picture, not for him, but for the girl in the frame, the one who loved life, loved people, and had the courage to believe. Now, I no longer wish for the money back. I don't wait for an apology from someone who goes through my life like a shadow. I just hold on to the lesson, not as a scar, but as a mark, a reminder. I used to think, I wish I'd never met him. Now I think, I'm glad I did, because now I know who I need to become. And yes, I still get coffee every morning at that same cafe. But now when I sit down, I'm not waiting for a message from anyone. I just listen to the quiet inside me, and it says, "We're gonna be okay." There's a moment in everyone's life when they're forced to change, not because they're ready, but because they no longer have a choice. For me, that moment came after pressing one seemingly harmless button: transfer. I'm no longer the girl I was 3 months ago, the one who believed love meant building a dream together, who thought a relationship could be the foundation for an entire business. But I don't want to become bitter either. I don't want to blame the world or shut my heart forever. So I chose something between clear-eyed but not hardened, soft but not weak. Some afternoons, I sit alone by the lake, watching the ripples on the surface, and I feel them inside me too. I no longer hope for someone to come and fill the emptiness. I just want to learn how to sit with myself, without feeling alone. I started a blog, not an investment blog, not a heartbreak diary, but a space for small, raw truths, things people are often afraid to share for fear of being judged. I wrote about pain, about trust betrayed, about nights when I couldn't breathe lying in what I once thought was a safe place. And to my surprise, people read it, not just read it. They wrote back. A woman from Ohio messaged me saying her husband had secretly gambled away their savings for years. A girl in California told me about an ex who borrowed money to open a gym and disappeared with a massage chair. A young man from New York confessed he had once sent all his savings to an online girlfriend he never met. I realized something. Pain doesn't isolate us. It's our openness about it that connects us, deeper than anything else can. I also started teaching a small workshop called Building Personal Brands with Trust. It sounds ironic, but it's deeply real. I told other young people, your brand isn't what you slap onto yourself. It's what remains when you've lost nearly everything and still choose to move forward with kindness. I don't know where Ryan is now, and I don't want to know. Maybe he's charming someone else with his smooth words and knowing smile. But I do know this. I'm no longer that easy to deceive. Not because I'm tougher, but because I now understand my own worth more than ever before. Loss can be a strange gift. It strips away the layers we wore to seem okay, then forces us to face the rawest, most unpolished version of ourselves. And from there, if we're patient enough, we can learn to love ourselves again. Not for anyone else, not to impress, but simply because we deserve to. One afternoon, I was sitting at my usual cafe, laptop open, lo-fi playlist in the background. A couple sat at the table next to me, laughing, arguing playfully over which pastry to order, and I smiled, not out of envy, but because I knew love is still beautiful. Only next time, I won't fall for someone just because they know how to draw a dream. Next time, I'll choose someone who makes me believe in the now, more than they try to sell me the someday. I used to think that if I had been smarter, more cautious, more aware, maybe none of it would have happened. I blamed myself 100 times for not seeing the red flags, for trusting too easily, for loving like the other person would stay forever. But in the end, I realized something. No one ever teaches us how to tell the difference between real love and a performance. There's no handbook for how to trust without getting hurt. Each of us can only learn that with our own heart, through the breaks, the betrayals, the abandonments. And from that, I came to understand. The fact that I once believed in someone, that wasn't a weakness. It was a sign of incredible strength. Only the brave dare trust. Only the kind-hearted believe love can be healing. I no longer blame myself for loving the wrong person. Instead, I feel proud that I dared to love, that I dared to give, to dream, to believe in something beautiful. Loss showed me my limits, but it also revealed the depth of my heart. I learned to listen to my intuition. I learned that uneasy feelings shouldn't be ignored. And I learned how to love without abandoning myself in the process. If you've ever been where I've been, betrayed, lost, so heartbroken you didn't know if you'd ever stand up again, remember this. You haven't truly lost everything, as long as you still believe in yourself. And sometimes, In the very moment when everything feels like it's falling apart, you meet the strongest version of who you're meant to become. If you've ever trusted someone and ended up hurt, if you've ever typed out a message, then deleted it, if you've ever waited for someone who never came back, then maybe this story is a part of yours too. Leave a comment if you felt that way, or if you're somewhere in the middle of your own healing journey. I read every message, and I deeply appreciate each one. Don't forget to hit like if you saw a part of yourself in this story, and subscribe so you won't miss future videos, where we don't just tell stories, we listen and heal together. Your share might be exactly what someone out there needs today. Thank you for staying, for listening, and for feeling this with me.